This is a post-chat report for 24 October 2015. So yesterday afternoon or evening, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at https://appear.in/bigboard, had a War Gamers video chat. We talked a lot about, in the first part of the chat, we talked a lot about Churchill. Now, I don't have Churchill and I've not played it, but EW in the chat talked a lot about this game. He's played it a couple of times, had a lot to say about it. He likes the game a lot. He wanted to point out, or he did point out early on, he doesn't really consider it a war game, but more a game in the tradition of political games. Sounded to me like a game of political negotiation, primarily. I wondered in the chat. I wondered how the designer Mark Herman valued whatever gains there are to be had for each player. In other words, how historical developments are valued in the sense of, I guess, winning and losing, basically. EW pointed out that players want to basically force suboptimal gains on opponents while gaining the most valuable gains for themselves. I asked about the BGG controversy surrounding Churchill, which seems to be primarily centered on the question of whether the game is quote-unquote broken. EW had some things to say about that, but in our discussion of that, I was thinking about my own recent, what I think are really incorrect assessment of some games that I've played recently. So what I'm referring to here is that I've played a number of games recently where I found the games frustrating, and yet upon further reflection I realized that while my frustration was pushing me to blame the game, upon further reflection I realized that it was more my bad game playing, my fast game playing, or simply not even necessarily bad game playing exactly, but inexperienced game playing. My inexperienced play of the game was basically handing me embarrassing defeat, and while the initial pull might be to, again, blame aspects of the game. And what I mean by blame the game, I mean it seemed like I was rushing too fast to the conclusion that the game was frustrating because it didn't have this mechanic, my favorite mechanic, or it had some mechanic in it that I didn't care for, or, whatever, imbalanced scenario or whatever. And the lesson for me is that, again, with some reflection, I realized that actually I wasn't really getting the games like I should have been getting the games, like taking the games on their own, on face value, taking the games as they're presented. So it was interesting when EW was talking about these different directed offensives and production points in the game Churchill. And then I talked about this game, a recent purchase of mine, Remember Limerick, Lace Wars Series Volume 7. I was telling EW, I was telling the chat participants that this was a real pleasant surprise when I opened this box. I mean, this is what I like, and I think a lot of wargamers like. I mean, this game, it's expensive, but it clocks in, it weighs in with a ton of material. Series rules, exclusive rules called His Majesty's Instructions for the Eradication of Rebellion in Ireland. Comes with a scenario and order of battle booklets, historical commentary, lots of product in this game. Nice, tons of historical background. I didn't look. I haven't even. Basically, only did one look through of the components. I really like the graphics, the map, as you can see a picture here, and the counters. Just wow. Red Sash Games. Remember Limerick Lace Wars Series Volume 7. I think this will be a good. This was recommended to me as a good entry point to the Lace Wars series and the incredibly beautiful looking Red Sash Games. And I think probably the another major topic that we talked about for quite a while that I want to mention before wrapping this post-chat report up is marketing a contemporary warfare game. Basically, the question is, how could a contemporary warfare game, so I'm talking about a system game of small unit tactical scope that allows you to basically throw down, probably geomorphic maps, get out probably, whether it's squads, teams, irregular groups, individual vehicles, or maybe platoons of vehicles, depends, but something at that scope allows you to throw down forces that use contemporary weapon systems and contemporary organizations and contemporary technologies in order to kind of fight out. I was mentioning we're putting forces back in Europe. What would a war game look like that would allow allow the players to throw down, a company, a tank company from today with today's hardware and plus all the soft factors, and allow it to fight against a Russian, tank company today. So how could a game like that basically be marketed? What would need to be done to market a game like that? We talked about that. I will not. I'm not going to talk about the ideas that came up in that discussion because that's something I want to look at in more detail, anyways. More and more detail, actually. But great, friendly chat this week. As usual, when these guys show up, like yesterday, just a ton to talk about, kind of rapid fire discussion, but lots of fun and definitely worth the time.